This is an incredibly long game and will take a very long time to do an in-depth review like I normally do, so there is some stuff missing here, but I have included the most important gameplay elements from my experience so far. This is an MMORPG. You can select from one of 3 characters. Each of them have different abilities, but for this mini review I will be focusing on Marcus, who plays more like a tank. The combat is all about timing. You really do have to get used to enemies' attack patterns and dodge efficiently. You can block incoming attacks, but you will end up having to evade a lot more, especially as you don't want to end up in the middle of a large crowd of enemies. Maneuvering around the battlefield really is as important as attacking, especially as certain enemies can form a line between them. If you touch this line, you will take damage. You really do have to be constantly aware of what is happening around you. You do have quite a lot of attacks at your disposal. You have a normal attack, which is your basic sword swing when playing as Marcus. You can also power up this attack to deal more damage, but doing this can be a bit tricky as it does take several precious seconds to power up, which leaves you vulnerable. You also have 3 unique attacks that recharge over time. Although it may appear that you have a lot of choice on how to tackle each battle, it is very likely you'll get into a rhythm with the attacks. With Marcus, I found it was best to use one ability to draw all enemies towards you and then charge quickly through them with another ability before you start to take damage. This kind of rhythm of attack is seen in most of these types of games, but it does become very tedious, especially as this game does require a lot of grinding, which we'll look into in a bit. Attacking enemies builds up your special ability. You know when this is ready to be used as a glow emits from your character's body. When activated, you become stronger and have different attacks at your disposal. Saving this for each location's harder battles is crucial, as some of the larger, more powerful enemies can appear in packs. There is a learning curve to enemy movement patterns, as there is no way to lock onto a single enemy. It does make the game quite hard when you first start playing. When the larger enemies are low on health, you can perform a finishing attack. The world is very dark and gritty. The graphics are very crisp and sharp. You see sparks emit from an impact of your sword and a loud clang is heard. It does sound very powerful and the sound design overall is done very well. It does look and sound incredible, and even though it is a third-person camera perspective, I was very immersed. Although occasionally my viewing point did go inside walls, which obviously broke the immersion. You can actually change the camera's position, but the default one is by far the best, as you are able to see more of the battlefield. The first-person perspective is a good addition to try to appeal to a larger audience, but as you can't see behind you and the game requires you to dodge out of the way of enemies quite a lot of the time, it ultimately makes this viewing perspective useless. The game is actually quite hard, not as hard as a game like Dark Souls, but I certainly felt a similar tense feeling as I entered a new area and enemies presented themselves in large numbers, or a new type of enemy appeared. Learning the enemy's attack patterns does have a Dark Soulish feel to it, especially as if you die in a mission and you don't have a revival feather, you will have to start from the beginning of that mission again. When you complete a story mission, a new one unlocks. Each stage has a recommended strength level that you should be at. You don't level up like you would normally in a game like this, and the only way to increase your strength is by creating and equipping new pieces of equipment, which you will need to do, and this is the part that really does ruin the game's potential of being a must-have MMORPG for the PSVR. To craft a new piece of equipment, you must first find all the materials that are needed. These are in missions that you have already completed and are randomly dropped for you to loot or rewarded for you for beating the level under certain requirements, such as finishing the mission by using less than 5 health potions. The problem with these random drops is that you may have to replay a level several times just for one type of material to drop. I spent around 40 minutes replaying a level 3 times until the material finally dropped. It wouldn't be too much of a problem if you didn't have to get so many materials for a single piece of equipment, but when you have to get around 12 materials for one piece of equipment, it does make you wonder if spending the time to do so is worth it overall, especially as new story missions in a chapter are usually repeated location segments from previous missions, with the only difference being a new enemy type or you simply start from a different position in that area. The amount of grinding in this game is a real shame, because the combat is very solid and the visuals are superb. Edging your way through each location exploration is intense and a lot of fun if you like to be challenged in games. The game really does have a lot of polish overall that is rarely seen in a lot of PSVR games, but the grind does become unbearable and only serves to make the game longer. These are my thoughts of the game so far. I still have a lot to see and do, and will have a full review out sometime in the future. I really hope they update the game to make it less of a grind, because there really is an amazing game here.